Good morning, everyone. This is Sherv back, and it is morning here, the first day of summer, and in Southern California there's no sun out yet. So I hope the lighting is okay. I'm on to make this video so I can acknowledge the birthday of, for me, one of the all-time greats, and that's For Dolphy, who was born June 20th, 1928, the first day of summer. And I don't want to go on too long with this. Part of my objective is to attach a link in the description to a documentary on him, and people can find out more about Dolphy in that documentary than I'm capable of saying. Yeah, just to share a little bit about, just my feelings on Dolphy. I think I've said it before. For me, the two musicians, John Coltrane, Jimi Hendrix, for years it's been them and then everybody else. But if I had to add a third to make it a trinity, I'm going with For Dolphy. And yeah, amazing musician. He was born in LA, Los Angeles, 1928, and attended Dorsey High School, which is in the heart of LA, you could say. And I actually called Dorsey High School once, I want to say 3-4 years ago. Just out of my own curiosity, I wanted to know, is there something there on campus that acknowledges Dolphy as one of their alumni? He played in the high school band there, and I don't recall the exact conversation I had, but after being put on hold a couple times, and basically I didn't get an answer. No one knew right off if there was anything there in their music department, which I thought was a shame. I mean, there could still be something and they just weren't able to find it for me. I know they're busy in their offices during school time, but I felt like, man, if somebody doesn't know right off to be able to pass that information on, it is a shame. Someone to his degree isn't just known like that. So yeah, For Dolphy, LA. He's influenced by a lot of musicians from that area. They were older, the Buddy Collette, Gerald Wilson, Roy Porter, and I have some records here. I'm going to try to do this quickly. I'm just going to talk about a few highlights, one of which is playing in the background, his legendary Live at the 5 Spot recordings, recorded in the summer of 1961, came out in 3 volumes, 1, 2, and 3. This is a box set of all 3 of them. This came out in the mid-70s, and what we're hearing is The Prophet, which would be side 2 of volume 1. And this, I think people will know these. If you have these albums, you know this is pure fire. The players on here are Booker Little, who died a few months after this, Mal Waldron, piano, Richard Davis, bass, Ed Blackwell, drums, and just collectively, this is, in a sense, unparalleled. And to give you an idea, This is 3 records, 6 sides. 6 sides with 7 songs. So, yeah. Start with that. And let's go through like some highlights. He got signed to the New Jazz label, part of Prestige, in 1960. And put this out first with Freddie Hubbard, Jackie Bayard, George Tucker, Roy Haynes. Great version of Green Dolphin Street with the bass clarinet and muted trumpet. Great combination. And then this is quartet, no piano. Ron Carter plays cello, George Duvivier bass, and Roy Haynes drums. And the title track on this is just a tour de force. Roy Haynes plays this fast shuffling beat. Amazing album. Here's an alternate cover. The first Dolphy I ever got is Far Cry. Probably got this a couple years out of high school. And after I got this, I'm like, okay, I need to know this musician. Okay, he played 3 instruments. He really mastered 3 instruments: the alto sax, the flute, and the bass clarinet. And sometimes he threw in the standard clarinet, I think a piccolo here and there. But those 3 instruments, the thing with Dolphy is he, to me, is one of the greatest improvisers. He was an improviser to the highest order. And on all 3 of these instruments, he can't be denied. And from my understanding, I've said it before, I'm not a musician, but I like to read and learn about these things. From my understanding of reading and interviews with musicians, the bass clarinet is not an easy instrument to play. It's used sometimes in classical ensembles, but for someone to play the bass clarinet in a jazz idiom and just to have total control over it and use it as a solo vehicle is just amazing. It's so difficult by so many accounts of people. And on this one, he does a version of Tenderly on alto sax solo, no instrument, no accompaniment. And then that leads into a version of It's Magic where he plays bass clarinet, and it's just such a superb transition between those 2 songs. Yeah, amazing. Dolphy liked to replicate sounds of birds. He was really conscious of the sounds of birds. He incorporated those sounds in his playing. Yeah. Stockholm Sessions, I've shown this before. Inner Finds. Berlin concert. He was very active in 1961. That Stockholm is 61. This is from 61 with Benny Bailey, Pepsi Hour, Jamil Nasir, Buster Smith. I think every live record I have, he does a version of God Bless a Child on unaccompanied bass clarinet. And, oh yeah. Sometimes it's in the 4-minute mark. Sometimes it goes on for 7 minutes. Man, amazing stuff. And another part of his live shows he did a lot was High Fly and Glad to Be Unhappy. This is Copenhagen Concerts, which is really, there were 3 volumes of Live in Europe. This is volume 1 and 3. Great stuff. This one, Status, is volume 2. It's a twofer. Volume 2, Made in Europe, or Live in Europe. And then another record that came out posthumously here and there, which is some leftovers, more stuff from the 5 Spot, some alternate takes, Status Seeking from the 5 Spot is on this. Yeah. Yeah. Dolphy. And here's another one that came out around the same time as that Here and There -1. This is more stuff from the 5 spot that wasn't released, more alternate takes. Part of this is from Outward Bound with Freddie Hubbard. Yeah. -1. This is a twofer, and I don't consider this a true twofer, because these are albums, 2 albums he recorded in '63, Conversations and Iron Man. But I'm not pleased with this because they mix up the order of the songs. It's not just one record is one album, the other record is another album, and they shuffle it around, and I'd like to get both those albums. I actually have Conversations on the way, so I'm happy to get that. But this is outstanding. I think this is Woody Shaw's first recording. Clifford Jordan, all these musicians, Sonny Simmons, Prince Lachey, Bobby Hutcherson, Richard Davis, Eddie Kahn, J.C. Moses. And there's some duets on here with just him playing bass clarinet and Richard Davis bass. Out of this world. Alone Together. They do Duke Ellington's Come Sunday. The definitive version of Jitterbug Waltz. Fats Waller, I think. Outstanding. Yeah. This I've shown in Fine. It's Unusual Live. Part of it is with Coltrane. And Herbie Hancock was on some of that. This I won't say too much about because it's part of the Blue Note 4000 series. People know this is only Blue Note recording. And this is highly regarded. But I want to point out, I mean, this is a great album. Yeah, highly revered. But I think this should be along the same lines. This is such an outstanding record out there. So, yeah, Blue Note 4163. Somebody will talk about this at some point, maybe next year. And the one I really want to point out is this Other Aspects, which came out in 1987, of newly discovered recordings. Somehow the musician James Newton got a hold of these tapes, I think from some family, Dolphy's family member. And this is unlike anything else that he did, and you know, the name Other Aspects fits. There are 5 songs on here, 2 of them very long, Jim Crow and Improvisations in Tukras. If I didn't know this was Dolphy, or if I didn't know this was any jazz musician, and I heard this, I would think it's some 20th century composer, you know, experimental music. I mean, this is really, really something. And it has some unknown musicians, but I think since this came out, they have discovered who they are, but I can't recall offhand. Ron Carter is definitely on this. Ron Carter will never go unknown. But there's some tablas, tambura on here. Yeah, wordless vocals. Yeah, amazing. This one is highly recommended. I've seen it a few times here and there in stores, and it's never that much. Yeah, Other Aspects. And the other thing about Dolphy is I've always looked at him and thought, man, he's one of the most photogenic people. Every picture of him I see is just perfect. And then you got Last Date. This is recorded early June 1964. He died June 29th, 1964. This is recorded in Holland. And the documentary that I'm recommending is called Last Date, and it revolves around this record in this session. And it talks to the musicians who are on the stage, Misha Mengelberg, Jacques Scholz, and Han Benink. And, yeah, great stuff here. Outstanding version of You Don't Know What Love Is, Monk's Apostrophe, and his own The Magic Speaks, the Panther Walks. And the thing with Dolphy, like in that last year or so, of his life, he was really coming into his own as a composer. Stuff from The Conversations and Iron Man, Out to Lunch. Yeah, really, really starting to, thrive in his compositions. And the last thing I'll show, I don't have the record it came out on. This was discovered after Last Date sessions. The last date was like June 2nd or 4th, 1964. Then he left Holland and had a long engagement scheduled in Berlin. But before Berlin, he stopped in Paris and did some recordings. And it eventually came out, was discovered and came out as The Lost Recordings. But the song on here, I don't have that record. I have it on the Spiritual Jazz Volume 4. This Jackson Pollock cover is the song Springtime. 19 minutes, and to me it's the creme de la creme of Dolphy works. His writing is very small on here. I know Donald Byrd is on here, some of his greatest playing, Nathan Davis, and you talk about a front line. And then, it's hard to see. Piano, bass, drums, and added conga. Yeah, this is a great series, Spiritual Jazz. People may know. This is the only one I know of that is a 3-record set. The others are doubles. And I think they might be up to volume 10 now, or 12. Yeah, great stuff here. And Dolphy, his recording career wasn't very long at all. I think 6 years, 58 to 64. He did some recording. He did a recording with the LA legend Roy Porter in 49, but then nothing else until Chico Hamilton, with Chico Hamilton in 58. So 58 to 64. But he put out so much stuff. All this under his own name. So many as a sideman. Another video could be made just of this stuff as a sideman. People know the Coltrane connection. Mingus, he was with Mingus 2 different times. He's on Ornette Coleman's Free Jazz. Oliver Nelson. A couple of great Oliver Nelson albums on New Jazz. But yeah, I highly recommend this documentary. It's from the early 90s, and parts of it, the filmmaker, he's talking to these musicians on the Last Date session. Parts of it, he goes to LA in his old neighborhood and talks to family and friends and former teachers, musicians who knew him, and by all accounts, he was one of the kindest people and most gentle human beings. Was clean, didn't do drugs, didn't drink, and if you know Coltrane's story about how Coltrane constantly played his horn, was constantly practicing, that's the way Dolphy was, just constantly playing his horn. And like I said, he was really into the sounds of the birds, and you can listen to his stuff on alto and flute especially, where it's such a unique tone. His music is like, I hear it as like very earthy, like a molten lava in a way, but also at the same time it sounds like it's coming from the furthest reaches of outer space, and those two things, colliding. Yeah, awesome stuff, Dolphy. Is that it? I want to keep this around 20 minutes. So, yeah, everyone take care. First day of summer. I don't see it here yet, but it's coming. All right. Thanks for listening.